one is stand up straight with your shoulders back. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Stand up straight with your shoulders back is a good rule. I understand where he comes from. I when I was younger, I didn't stand up straight, and people noticed it, and they actually told me it's bad posture. But it also had to do with what I was valuing most, which was video games, uh, and so that's why I had a bad posture. But
I
treat
think
yourself like
it communicates like a level of confidence as well. Like it's not just bad posture or the fact you play video games. Like
yeah. I'm not saying playing video games is
no,
terrible, but
no, I mean like it's like a confidence thing. Like you
yeah,
yeah, like respect yourself.
yeah. I know. I would even add to that, like if you're gonna walk with your shoulders up, like probably, you know, respect yourself to the degree that you prepare yourself in the morning to go out to be in public with your shoulders up. Don't be a confident Looney Tune walking around. Um, but treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. That one's really. What do you think of that one? I want your perspective on that one.
Treat yourself like you're someone responsible for helping.
Yeah.
That's like I like this one. That's like the you get you see people where they like if they make a mistake, they treat themselves horribly. But if someone else makes the same mistake, they have empathy towards them and are like, "Oh, it's fine. It's not a big deal." So it's like, why not treat yourself the same way? Like you can't be your own tyrant is one of the things he said.
Hmm.
Um, I need to read
You
that
can't.
book again, honestly. But
You
like,
can't be your own tyrant.
yeah, like he talks about
Hmm.
like don't be a tyrant to yourself. Like how you treat a kid, where it's like if you go clean your room, you can play video games for an hour or 20 minutes, whatever. It's like do that to yourself. Like if you go and if you do an hour of focused work, spend some time doing something you enjoy after that. Reward yourself. Don't like be like, all right, well, I've got 8 hours today. I need to work straight 8 hours. That's it, you know? It's completely like there's no leniency with yourself. That's kind of what that means.
Hmm. I like that. I'll have to try that because I definitely do that in my mind a lot. Taking my being hard on myself, and then I'll notice I'm not as hard on other people. Sometimes I'm both. I'm hard on myself and hard on other people. But I'll have to think about that one and probably get his book and read it. Number three is make friends with people who want the best for you. That one's definitely a good rule. Um, and I would say definitely put some distance between the people that don't seem to have much interest with you. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. That's a good one. I've seen you post about that. Um, Super important because you should be focusing on how you are progressing each and every day rather than focusing on how you are not where somebody else is today.
Yeah, well, if you're the best competition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. There's some parenting tips right there. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. That one's a really good one. I like that one. Honestly, like that can go in so many different areas of life, of making sure you got your crap figured out and in order before you go trying to fix other people's crap. It, it man, I tell you, it cracks me up sometimes. People like you talk to them and they they share like their frustration with somebody, and it's like, okay, they're frustrated. Equal amount of people that are frustrated with you, with you over these things that you can change, but you can't change this person. And so I think that's maybe that's kind of like the look we should have on it is change what you can and don't worry about what you can't change.
Mm. It's like the fitness influencer. that's overweight.
The fitness influencer that's overweight.
I
Yeah,
mean, fitness coach that's overweight.
an
It's like
overweight fitness coach.
set your house in order, become someone worth looking up to before you try to sell
Yeah.
fitness coaching.
So pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. That's a very important one that all of us uh, take advantage of. 8 is tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And I read this rule, and I don't know what your opinion is on it, but I would honestly just shorten that to tell the truth. I think sometimes, well, maybe it should be that way, but I think a lot of times we think we don't speak when we should speak, um, and a lot of times we withhold information that we probably shouldn't withhold. And so there's a very, very balanced line to live by that rule. That's one that you definitely have to balance, of knowing what to withhold from others, and that won't necessarily hurt them to withhold, and what to not withhold, because it will definitely hurt them if you do withhold it. I thought about this one quite a bit, because I've talked to quite a few people about, like, okay, like some information, it's like you're not lying about it, but you definitely have the information to tell it to somebody, and you know that if they find out and it's not by you, that they're going to be upset, and you know that, but you're still withholding it because you're putting off a conversation that you don't want to have. And I think that right there is like super important. So it's like, yes, you're telling the truth, you're not lying, but you're withholding information that you know would be beneficial to, in anywhere, maybe your friend, in your marriage, um, in your workspace. Um, to me personally, and maybe it's not to everybody, but to me personally, when someone withholds information like that, I kind of look at it a borderline lie. It's like, okay, you knew this was going to affect me. I could have better prepared for it if I had known, but I didn't, because you took the back burner of, I don't want to deal with this right now, which is fine by you, but now the relationship is hindered. And so I feel like a lot of times we can hinder relationship by holding information, just because we hate conflict. And I truly do hate conflict. I don't like conflict. Some people think I like it, but I don't. um, but anyways, so I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I like that explanation. Yeah, I
So
think
you got a
he
little.
says if you have something to say and you don't say it, it's like if you have something to say and you don't say it, your silence is a lie or something like that. Like he actually says that, and it's like,
Oh,
yeah. So you're
okay.
not off, man. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'll definitely say, me personally, and some people don't. Some people don't get hurt by that. They just go, "Oh, okay, gotcha. That was your fair right to do." But to me, that comes off very, very, very frustrating. I get very frustrated with people for that. But anyways, that was 8. Number 9 is assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Great rule. What's your thoughts on that rule? Do you like that rule?
I love that rule honestly because like I view that I tried to have that perspective when I talk to anyone, and like that quote, everyone knows something that you don't, so therefore everyone's your teacher. That's something I think about a lot. So like I always try to respect someone because they definitely know something that I don't, and it would be foolish of me to think that I'm better in any way because of that, which in reality I don't know. Um, so, anyways, yeah, love that one.
Mm. I like that one because it's like, maybe you come across someone that is a complete wreck in life. It's like, and you may come across someone, I'm sure we come across people like that all the time, but they're a complete wreck in life. And you're like, okay, you have very little to nothing to figure out. And 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 I think I learned that rule at a young age, at like 14 or 15, because we had somebody show up to church and they were they were a complete wreck. But like I was like, okay, be kind to them. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be kind, be respectful. Don't ignore them, or don't not have a conversation with them because you feel like your IQ might drop if you talk to them. Don't have that type of attitude towards it. And so like doing that, then I sat and I just listened to this person talk for like probably 30 minutes. They didn't even need to breathe while they were talking, but there were 30 minutes going on. And I was listening, I was grabbing little snippets of pieces. And the one area that they had knowledge, I didn't have knowledge in. And so it was like, oh, okay. And so they were giving me little advice and tips of how a particular system works, which it was the health system, the the doctor system, of how to get prescriptions, what to say to your doctor if you want to get a prescription for this or that. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay, so you know quite a bit about this and knew quite a bit about drugs. And I was like, I don't know the first thing about drugs. And so I sat there and listened for 30 minutes and I learned something. But on the outer surface, you would have never thought this person knows this information about this. And so definitely an eye opener for me at a young age. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. So, but number 10 here, precise, be precise in your speech. Um, I love this one. What's your takeaway from this one?
It's just something I try to practice every day. In the things that I write, I have to be very precise in it, without there being a lot of worriedness to it. So yeah, I definitely try to do that on a daily basis. This podcast that we do is I definitely talk a lot more in this than I do on social media, but yeah. I think what helps with it is growing up and being a quiet person. So if you ever wanted to say anything, you had to crunch it all the way down into into a little snippet and then say something, right? Like
Right.
you're not the main focus. So if you wanted to say something, yeah, it would be in a couple sentences, and then everyone would pay attention and go back to focusing on the other person. So I got a lot of practice being very precise in what I said growing up.
I like that. I agree with you. You had to crunch your words down and say it real quick, and be very attentive. With me, this one, I've been starting to be more precise in like two areas of my speech. On this one is one area is the small words I use. A lot of us always get caught up with the big words. I started to get caught up with the small words, because a lot of times people will listen and they'll miss one small word that changes the entire sentence. And if you just breeze by it, there's no there's no coming back unless you're very attentive to the small words that you use. They can be as small. I'll give you an example. Like they can be as small as the word we or our. And so it's like, our goal is to do this. And somebody might come back and be like, well, you said that your goal is to complete this. And no, 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 no. Our goal. It's yours
Oh
and
yeah,
my goal.
absolutely.
And those small little words, because sometimes people's emotions will block out those words. I swear. Some people, or they just block it out. I don't know. Or they're just thinking more in personal terms of what's best for me. Maybe they're being selfish. I don't know. But and I notice in my speech, when I use words like I, myself, me, I'm pulling the attention onto me. And so I've definitely had to focus more on those things so that I'm not being too focused on me and not others. And so, and I can't remember who exactly pointed that out to me, or how I exactly started getting on that course. But that's one, focusing on small words. Two is understanding the original definition and the definitions of words that we use. because today we use them incorrectly all the time. And so that's definitely, um, I'll even take the word back. I feel like I'm getting better and better at this every day. I'll take the word back all the way to its etymology, the oldest that I can get, understand it to that point, and I've almost got it to a point where I can understand the word. I can understand certain words just by hearing them and know their definition without never ever hearing the word before, and know their definition because obviously a lot of words are subparts of other words, and so you can put it together and be like, oh, okay, that's what that means. And then you look up the definition, and you're like, oh yeah, I was right. And so it's great. So those are the two. Those are the two kind of things that I've been working on, by being precise in your speech.
I think you're good. You're right about the we and our. When you're talking about that, I've I noticed and I've offended a lot of people by not getting those two right. So I'm very conscious about that. Whenever I'm talking, it's like I'm I'm always gonna say we or our, it, or like we or our, if it's something that we're working on together, or if it's something that like we did together. Like there needs to be some sort of shared credit in anything, whether that's just in friendships, relationships, whatever. Because I noticed that growing up, like people will say I, and it will really, when they should have said we, and it really upsets people because like they're not very precise. Like they should have said we instead of I, and and it upset people, not intentionally, but like they just weren't thinking, and they just didn't include the other person in that. When in
Mm-hmm.
reality, they probably were thinking about it. They just didn't weren't very precise in their speech, I guess. So
And I think there's like a good balance too, like when you swap from close friends to people that you know and you know what they mean, to swapping to people that maybe you're not as well close with or bonded with. So it's like, you know, I think there's you can be a little bit more relaxed and not have to pay so much attention to it, and know the heart of somebody behind of what they're saying rather than maybe the words that came out. And so
it also builds like a bit of a community, I've noticed, because I feel like I'm pretty good at that, where I'm good at like bringing people in and connecting people. And like if you say we more than I, you start to build a bit of a community, right? Because like if
Mhm.
you're in a group of people that come to connect with you and you say I all the time, they're gonna feel like they're watching you. But if you say we, they feel like they're a part, and they feel like they can have some feedback even if they don't have any they want to give. So like you build that connection. Uh, so yeah, words are powerful, and it's crazy that like pronouns like that are the issue
Mhm.
in
Yep.
2024. It's crazy that pronouns are the issue, and yet they're so powerful. Um,
I just remembered who caught me onto that, and that was the pastor here. When he talks, he always says "we" and "our," as he's talking to the church. And I noticed that because when you swap from one church to the next church, it's like, oh well, is this really my church? You're trying to figure out, like, do I really want to stay here? Is this where I want to be? And that's probably what caught me onto that, is that he would say it and he would put so much emphasis on it to make sure. And I think the reason he does that is probably because past times he's seen areas where, well, it was just all about these certain group of people and nobody else. And so he's trying to be more, I hate using this word, but inclusive of people that are around trying to help. And so he says it in the manner of our church. We are doing this together. We are serving together. And so, especially when you're in a position of power, it's important to know, hey, this is a team effort, not an I effort. Anyways, moving on. Be precise in your speech. Do not bother children when they are playing. That is a good rule. It's also a very good rule for parents. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. I'd say this is even important all the way up possibly to adulthood. One way he says it is, do not stop your child when they are doing dangerous things carefully.
Hmm.
I think is kind of the way he puts it, and that should probably be applied to several people if they're in a lot of areas of life. If they're doing it carefully, something dangerous carefully, don't stop them just because it's dangerous. We have a lot of people that want to just end things because they're dangerous, but life is dangerous. You're going to have dangers regardless what you do. Everybody can't live in a bubble, so you have
Yeah,
to
you
do
got to read
dangerous
the book,
things.
dude. He explained that chapter very, very well. Made
Yeah.
made a ton of
Okay.
sense.
I'll have to. Yeah, I'll have to pick up that book. Definitely a next read. 12 Rules for Life. But yeah, do not bother children when they are playing. And then this last one, I absolutely despise. I hate it. Pet a cat when you catch one on the street. I'm not petting
Okay.
a cat.
He talks about that in the book. He's like, all right, I'm gonna upset a lot of dog people. I'm pretty sure he says that. Like he talks about it. I don't know why he chose cat instead of dog, but he explains it. Um, yeah.
I think because it's. I think sometimes it's harder to pet a cat than a dog. Maybe it has to do with their because like he goes into depth on lobsters, and it's like, okay, if you have a guy that goes in depth on how lobsters do in an environment under the ocean, he probably knows a little bit about cats and dogs. And I would probably say he picked it because it's easier to pet a dog than it is a cat. Maybe, I don't know. Cats seem to
You're pro-
be.
I think you're gonna find more stray cats than stray dogs, and
Yeah,
maybe that was it. Yeah.
maybe so. So maybe there's a deeper message there that he just hasn't shared. Anyway,
No,
so
he
12 rules
definitely
for
shared
life.
it. Read the book.
Oh,
You
he
almost
shared it. Like he definitely shared
read
it.
the book. Yeah.